season, and I know with the coronavirus and all, we all have been really, put down by this entire pandemic thing. So you want something to tune into, something nice to listen to, something positive. And with this Jadon Sancho saga going on for almost forever, I think we needed to speak to somebody who can assure us. And there is nobody better than the person who has actually known the manager inside out. Presenting Jamie Jackson, and I don't think he needs an introduction. Hi, Jamie.
Hello, how are you?
We are doing great. How are you?
I've never been better.
And so today is your day off. So what exactly do you do on your day offs?
Well, catch some of the rays, the Manchester sunshine. My son's doing a cricket camp all week. He really loves cricket. So I've been sort of taking him to that, collecting him, spend some time with my daughter, eating some ice cream, that kind of thing.
Okay, real family time. So, the COVID situation was really fierce. I think it still is, in India at least. How is the situation over at your place?
Well, it's an interesting question. In one way, you could say no one really quite knows where we are with it. So, inverted commas, there's some sort of normal life going on, but it's not really normal. You wear face masks, for example, if you're not a little kid when you go into certain shops and you're buying. Social distancing, obviously there's no one at football games. I'm going to Cologne on Saturday to the semi-final on Sunday. United's obviously, there won't be anyone there apart from journalists and football people. So schools are about to go back in September. They've been suspended basically since March, I think it was, or April. So it's sort of a bit of a state of flux. Is maybe the best way to describe it. No one is quite sure which way it's going to go. It's not great.
Yeah, but there's one positive. The schools are coming back. There's one positive for your daughter, I guess. Yeah, I guess. And I would really love to see you go to Cologne and watch the match, because none of us are going to any stadium anytime soon. Because in India it's the same. The situation is the same. And you have reported IPL the first season, so how crazy IPL gets, how crazy cricket gets in India. But this year, IPL has been postponed. I don't even know if they're going to have it all together or if they're going to chuck it. But all of the stadiums are empty. The lives are, in a way stopped. We are getting used to, still taking time to get used to this new normal thing. It's nowhere close, but yeah, I feel you. It's really horrible. Still, okay, now... Let's cut to the chase and get to this question answer thing. I have a lot of things to ask you, and I really hope that you would oblige. So the first, since you're writing the biography for the manager, and we love Ole Gunnar Solskjær over here, so you have gotten to know the man up close and personal, really close. So how has this experience been? Is he really the way he looks, the demeanor, baby-faced, or is he more of an assassin than the baby face?
I like the question. I like the way you split it up. I think there's probably elements of both of those characterizations which are true. So he is basically what you see when you see him in a press conference or after a game. A very nice man, but at the same time, he's not an assassin, but he's not, he's a smart man. One of the things I say is, having spoken to a lot of people, sort of former players of his, both when he was a teammate or especially when he was a manager, say at Cardiff and obviously Norway, he almost kind of come to life a little bit when you talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjær. He has made a lasting impression on them, and obviously in a good way. They wanted to speak about him. It was almost like they could not wait, and that was easily a recurring experience. I maybe spoke to 40, maybe 50 or more different people from when he was basically a little kid, football coaches then all the way up, and he always had a sort of his own particular maturity, if I can call it that, when he was sort of 9 or 10, wanting to learn to be a football player then. At the same time, he was part of that amazing Manchester United team stroke generation of Roy Keane, Van Nistelrooy, Scholes, Bob, Giggs. You don't even run through them all. And he was a major part of that team, and he wouldn't have been that without two things. Obviously, being a very good football player, but also being mentally very strong. What he's got as well is he has got an ease with different parts of the Manchester United manager job. So I'm talking about, look at how he's sort of brought on Mason Greenwood, for example, or Brandon Williams this season. United have a massive tradition of young, homegrown players coming through, and Mourinho, for me, found that a little bit awkward. That's what I mean. When he was the manager, he couldn't quite get his head around it because it's not his style. But Solskjaer is the other way, because he did train. He was obviously formally in charge of the reserves, sort of like 08, 9, a little bit in 10. And that's just one example. I think you could say his recruitment's been good. Another part of, one thing I always sort of refer to, because I was amazed, was his very first press conference ahead of the Cardiff game, December 2018, when basically he came as a caretaker. I thought, crumbs, this is going to be a big deal for him. He wouldn't be a little bit, not overawed, certainly tentative, but he just came into the room and basically controlled proceedings and was at ease, and I thought, that's interesting. It's like he's reveling in it. The sort of pressure, he's enjoying it. You have to kind of be like that if you've got any chance at all to sort of pull off being the manager of Manchester United, because it's a one-off job. I cover City as much as I cover United, and it's a different animal for all sorts of reasons. There's something about being Manchester United manager. So he's got all of this, and I think this season, his first full season, he's proven he's got courage, he's got self-belief. There's been at least 2 times, I could give you maybe more, he could have been sacked, another club or another time at this club. And he must have known that. He's an intelligent bloke. But what I was seeing was kind of what I'd learned through talking to people about him previously. But of course you're thinking, well, Manchester United is different. Can he actually handle this? And I think he's shown it. He can. I'm not saying you're going to win the title next season or even challenge properly, although I think you've got a chance of doing it, certainly the latter. But I think, finishing third, you might win the Europa League. The players he's bought, he's revamped the culture of the club. Yeah, he's sort of, it's now, it wasn't a particularly happy place under Mourinho, just wasn't at all. So I think, so far, kind of so good. I'd be excited if I was a United fan about next season, certainly.
Okay, that sums it up. Yeah. So is that the reason you decided that you would write about this man? You would let the world know how actually the man is. Did this actually help you decide?
Yeah, I mean, I was approached basically. I've got an agent because I write fiction, I write novels, and my agent said, well, what about doing a biography of Solskjær? There's never been what I would call an exhaustive or an in-depth or really a proper one. There are a couple of books on him, but they're kind of, one of them certainly, I believe, is kind of what we call a cut and paste affair, where it's nothing original research or interviews gone in there. It's kind of using other, previous clippings. And I was quite surprised. And then actually, when you thought about his story, of course, the Champions League winning goal in 1999 is kind of the crowning moment of his sort of playing career, obviously. But then if you look at his trajectory, the fact he's coming to United as his caretaker manager, when I agreed to do it, it looked like he hadn't yet been made the permanent manager. It was just an interesting story. But I've got to be honest, because I love writing fiction so much, I wasn't particularly keen on doing it at the time, only because I thought, well, how would I have the time to do it? But the more I thought about it, we've got a really good publisher as well, Simon & Schuster, obviously a worldwide giant. So, and I just kind of, as I started to look into it, I thought, yeah, you'll come out of this knowing so much about him. But it's also interesting because, obviously I'm a journalist. It's basically, in some regard, it's like a piece of journalism that's done, to sort of 80,000-90,000 words. And there are other differences in telling a particular sort of story. But I've come out of the other end, but I basically now understand more how to write biographies, which I've always liked. If you read a good biography, if I read a good biography, I find them very interesting. So hopefully I've done, something similar with Ollie. And the thing is, he is a good subject. For a writer, there's a lot there to go at. You know what I mean? There is a lot of interest, and the fact that it was so difficult towards the end of last season and through different points this season until sort of January and Fernandez, that makes the story more interesting, really, because it's come through that.
Exactly. And so during this time, during this entire time that you spoke about right now, so he started off at Cardiff. That wasn't really a very impressive CV to add to. And then he went to Molde, and there he transformed the team, and then he came to Manchester United. So, do you think that there is something that he actually got from Norway that he brought to Man United that was not there in the pre-Norway Ole? Maybe.
It's interesting. He was actually you're right, he did go to Molde after Cardiff, but he'd been there previously. That was his first managerial job after leaving United, looking after the reserves, and he went there. And one of the impressive things he did was the club that he went to Molde. They'd never been champions in Norway, and
exactly,
year. This is the 11th season to play over 1 year because of the winters there, and he won the title. They'd never done it before, and then he retained.
Exactly.
Which is even kind of, I won't say it's more difficult than winning the very first, but it's a different challenge to retain. He won a cup the third year, Norwegian Cup, and then he went to Cardiff. I think the fact that he basically was pretty, a bit of a difficult experience at Cardiff, I think has helped him. Ferguson, I think, got sacked from his very first job as a manager back in the sort of mid-70s.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
To go through it, be sacked. And then when he went back to Molde, again, it's a different. This is the thing, you see. On the one hand, there's not so much this now, but on the one hand, I understand this. At the time when he came to United, there was a certain view that, what's Norwegian football compared to the Premier League, so Manchester United? And yes, of course, they're different, but at the same time, you still, in terms of a football team, and the way in which I was learning, he won that. One of the things I was told was when he went to Molde at first, he spent a lot of time convincing them. Remember, he'd never had a managerial job before, but convincing these players that they could win the title. Now that might sound an obvious thing to do, but from what I was told and the way in which he did it, was so forensic and so, a certain amount of belief and also a long-term plan and vision. So, I think he has actually had different kinds of experience that are only going to help him, but at the same time, unless you are basically, unless you've got Lionel Messi in your squad, it's always going to be going to Manchester United. You know what I mean?
The way, even if you have.
Yeah, exactly. The club was. And so, so far, I think he's been impressive, but I'm just interested to see what happens next season. Obviously, the Sancho thing is going on. I think he's got to get at least one centre back. I think he knows that's what he's after, and I think there's other areas of the team. And third has been great, but really he has to at least get close to Liverpool and probably City next. I don't know if you can really contend all the way through, but if you're still in it, if United are still in it, sort of, the title race, March, April, which is basically the end of the season, or 5 points, whatever you want to call it, I think that would be progress. But of course, you will want to try and win it, and you never know in football. Liverpool, when City had the 100-point season from the Premier League, I think they were 25 points, something ridiculous off City. The following season, they just 1 point. That's where it's seen.
That's how uncertain football is, I guess. And that is the reason I think it makes it so all the more difficult, all the more interesting for the fans out here. Even that is the reason I think so many fans of English Premier League, there are so many fans all over the world, all over the globe. Look at us. We are supporting a club that is almost 5,000 kilometers away. And it's amazing to think that we here, even we are so much affected by the success and the failure of a club in London, in Manchester, and in the UK. And it's amazing. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. But I heard you mention a word, Jadon Sancho. I think that is the most searched keyword in this entire world right now. You look for Jadon Sancho and you have the entire thing with you. So I saw that although like a good number of people have been very negative about it, but you have never been negative about it. You have been always very vocal that Jadon Sancho, the deal is on the way. So yeah, what's your take on that?
Every time I speak about it, I'm reflecting, what I've heard most recently. So again, all I'm hearing, listen, transfers can always go wrong for all sorts of reasons, even if they're about to be signed. But as of yesterday, obviously I was off today, so things might have changed today, you never know. But as of yesterday, Tottenham wanted to sell. Matt Watson is saying publicly, the director of the player, very important, wants to go to Manchester United. Manchester United wants to buy him. So Solskjaer wants him. But to a certain extent, we are kind of where we are, whenever it's been the last week or so. There's a difference of what the valuation of what we feel that both sides should pay. But nothing has really changed materially. When Zorc said on Monday, he's staying here until next season, again, I have to say this because it is correct, he may end up staying there, but I doubt it, because they want to sell. So this is a little bit reminiscent of Bruno Fernandes, Christmas time, January. Sporting Lisbon always want this price, United know not to pay it, and in the end, if you actually look at that deal, Sporting basically got the deal they wanted, but United could sort of turn around and say, actually no, because the way in which it's structured with like add-ons, it's going to take a little while for that full fee to go through to Lisbon, and that's Sporting Lisbon, and that's basically what I think will happen here. I think in the end, you're going to get, let's say they want 100, I'm not completely sure exactly what they want, that's pounds, £100 million Dortmund, or maybe it's 110, but you're going to end up with United maybe giving a lump sum of whatever it might be, and the rest will be add-ons. But the add-ons whereby you have to United maybe have to win the Premier League with Sancho and the team and the Champions. There'll be sort of add-ons that are not impossible, but a little way off, and I think that's what will happen. When he says on Monday he's still be playing here next summer, it's just sort of. He said it about Dembele in 2017. Dembele, the player who went
exactly.
So he put it. Again, it might not be exactly the same this time, but he's got a track record for doing it. So who knows? But as I say, as of yesterday evening, all three parties, two clubs and the player, definitely wanted it to happen.
Then that's the thing that we wanted to hear. You being optimistic is the most important thing for us right now. And so in this COVID situation, the economy of this entire world, it has crumbled to the dust.
Yeah.
And do you think this has a role to play? Because suppose this was a non-COVID Manchester United, non-COVID stricken season, and 120 million in this present market does not really look like much, because we're used to seeing players getting sold at that budget every year now. So do you think the COVID has a role to play in this?
It's a very good point. I think it definitely does. I mean, Sancho's 20, right? So in theory, you're buying it. Well, not in theory. In practice, the club's strategy is you're buying a player for 10 years minimum. So dare I say it, £100 million. If let's say it ends up being that, it's 10 million a year for a player who they will make money on in the end with regard to commercial sort of spin-offs, all that kind of thing. Before you even get to the team, he's going to make so much better, and then hopefully win a Premier League and a Champions League and all the money you gain from that. So I actually think, how can I say this? It's going to sound a little bit silly maybe, but it's actually a bargain kind of price that they're being quoted. But yes, the pandemic has obviously affected everyone, economies, like you say, all over the world. It's obviously had an effect on United, but I would say, United have been affected, but United do have more money than most clubs. The sort of reference point I always reference is the Adidas kit deal, which is I think 70 or 75 million a summer.
Yes.
For 10 years. It's 750, it's a record, and that's just one, obviously major, but that's just one revenue stream. That's not gone away. They've just finished third. That's Champions League football, which is worth, well, who knows, because of the pandemic, it's going to be worth 50 to 100 million. There's a Jadon's. That's what I mean. So, and I think to a certain extent, there might actually be some frustration on the German side as to why United aren't just kind of firming it up. But as I say, it's kind of what they did with Fernandes, and what they would say, and it is true, because it's true of Manchester City, it's true of Real Madrid. If one of these super clubs come calling, selling club often, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with this, but they often maybe, there's a premium because you are Manchester United. So all right, it's going to be 10% more. And I think United, they do not want that to happen. I think they got their fingers burnt very badly with Alexis Sanchez, paying him the thick end of half 500,000 a week. It didn't really work. I mean, it's different kind of
ridiculous.
So and fair play to United, because they've got to look after the crowd. I think, as I keep on saying, it might fall down for someone for some reason at the moment, but it's not what none of the parties want it. And if you try to sell something, everyone wants to try to sell something to someone who wants to buy it. It happens, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, it has to, because all parties want it to. And, as I keep on saying, I think it will.
Yeah, I think you've made a very valid point that all the parties concerned are they're agreeing. They have agreed to the thing that it will happen. So it's just a matter of time. It looks like just a matter of time, because this 70-80 million, I think they're gonna push it to another level. Maybe at the end of the day, at the end of the bargain, I think everybody's gonna be a winner, because Dortmund, they are a seller club. They love to sell players. They have been selling players. And Sancho is an English player, so he would love to come back to his hometown, his native place. And Manchester United, we need a right winger, proper right winger. I think that is some. But coming to this now, just as I said that we need a right winger, we need a lot of players. But what I heard from some other places is that United approach one player at a time. Do you think that is the case?
No, it would be good business transfer business. They have a list. So for the Sancho, right, they'll have Sancho obviously, who's the number one target this summer, but he will head a list for that position, or that kind of forward position across the front. But they can't afford not to be sort of teeing up potential if it falls through, but also for other positions. So centre back, I think what they'd love to do is get Koulibaly, Napoli. Whether they can actually go out and spend 80 million, I think it's the Napoli president, or German, whatever he said, 90 million euros. He'd love to go and do that, but I think what we'll try and do is maybe get an Nathan Ake profile centre back. So basically half the price, knows the Premier League, and it has to have pace basically, because I think I don't think as a partnership, Lindelof and Maguire are the fastest against a fast team. Obviously, I'm lucky enough to see United every home game and all the rest of it. And too many times I've seen them turn for pace. So I think that's the other area that these target. But yeah, I mean, you just then you do kind of need, what you really need is kind of what City have done, which is stockpile. I know David Silva's now left, but basically, you had David Silva, you had De Bruyne, you've got Bernardo Silva, you've got Fernandinho, you've got Rodrigo, you've got Phil Foden. Where does it stop? Where does it start? I think he can do that for every area. But what he's sort of doing, so he's kind of doing that with his front line. If Sancho does come, when he does come, you're going to have obviously Sancho, Rashford, Martial, Greenwood, core. That's a great position to be in, because you're only really going to play three. The competition there, Sancho makes them better. It'll be interesting to see who the fall guy is, or who's most under threat. I would suggest, in an opinion, bit of what I've been told, is actually Rashford at the moment. It'd probably be easier to do that when he's younger, but I think overall, thinking is at the moment it might be Rashford. I'd say you have to fight more of these players. I'm not saying he's going to drop. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying. Anyway, that's what he's doing with his front line. If you look at midfield, I think you can argue you could do. You won't be hurt by another very good holding midfielder, yeah. Then I think left back's an interesting position. I think Williams definitely, for me, is good enough to be in the squad, stroke team. But I'm not sure about. Let's see what he has to do. What he does next season. But I'm not sure. Is he fast enough? My reference point for this is Liverpool. Look at their fullback, Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. lethal going forward, never mind defending. You know, sort of they're attacking. That's kind of what you need, really. You need everywhere you look in the and David De Gea, the goalkeeper position is an interesting one because I think he wants to. He's become particularly great recently. For the first time, he threw in a load, made a lot of mistakes towards the end of last season. I don't think Henderson out on one. I think Romero is getting very close. I think he'll probably start the season as a first choice for Gea, but let's wait and see what happens there. Liverpool suffered obviously with Karius, didn't they? In the Champions League final, they got rid of him. Guardiola did it at City with Bravo. I'm not saying necessarily they're going to get rid of Gea, but that's another area that he's going to have to earn his money, Solskjaer, with regard to what he does about that.
Exactly. And so you mentioned like more than 4 or 5 players that United might have to look at, and so that is absolutely a good place to be in if we get 4 or 5 players in the next summer. But do you actually, if you look at the transfer window, if we go on to get Jadon Sancho, do you actually think that we might end up buying a couple of more players or add to the depth of the squad?
I think United will think if we end this window with Jadon Sancho and a very good centre back, that's a bare minimum stroke success, maybe an extra player. What I'm sort of saying is, that's what you need, but I don't think it's realistic this summer, really. Greenwood coming through has helped a lot. Fernandes working so well, but also it's a bit of a cliche to say, you've almost kind of gained a midfielder with Pogba looking happy to be there now because the team is so much better. He's not the only sort of proper player there, if I can put it that way. I think it'll be Sancho if he arrives, plus a centre back, and let's see what else. They might pull one other deal out of the sort of hat. But I think that's basically what I've been told. It's two minimum.
2 in the minimum. I think that is a bare minimum we can have right now, because looking at the squad depth, I personally, if you ask me, I personally do not think that United have a really deep squad. I think we need that in a league-winning side. I think squad depth is very important, and we need to add to that. So I think Van de Beek is also being kept into consideration, and Thomas Partey is there, and Ndidi is there from Leicester. So who would be your pick of the lot, or do you think a wild card like Kante, because he's 29, he looks a bit unsettled, would be your pick?
Before I was mentioning about that was the name that I've mentioned.
Jamie, I think your microphone is a bit. Can you speak a bit louder? I think I cannot hear you.
Hear my dulcet tones now?
Yeah, it's better now. Yeah.
If you could somehow get Kante, that would be what a bonus that would be. I tell you what, if you look at a team's squad that have been enhanced by Sancho, not too sure who the centre back will be, but a centre back and Kante, I'll give you a good chance of being contenders then next season. I think that's what you need. I think you need 2 kind of marquee-ish players, which is Sancho and Kante, and then a very, very good centre back. But whether you could get him, I'm not so sure. I mean, he doesn't always seem to get into how Lampard wants to play. Kante. I mean, that might change next year, but he's won the Premier League twice, obviously, with Leicester and Chelsea, and the World Cup. So 29, great sort of age to go there. Let's wait and see. Now, I haven't heard his name mentioned, but things change all the time. It's a long window. We go to October the 4th, I think it is. So what's that? Another couple of months? There's time for these sort of things.
This time, yeah. So I think this Zoom meeting will end now. I'll send you another link. This discussion is going on, so I do not want to end this right now. I'll just send you the other link and we'll join right there. Cool. Okay, is that okay?
Of course,
yeah.
Thank you.
looks so unprofessional at times. But yeah, this is all we got.
Right.
Yeah, Shubham, are we good to go?
Yeah, we are live.
Good. Yeah, so we are live. So yeah, whoever heard that, please unhear that. Yeah, so this is such an interesting thing that I didn't actually want to stop you midway and go ahead with it, because it's a pleasure speaking to you in the first place, and I want to hold on to you as long as I can. So yeah, coming back to the transfers, I think we are done with whatever questions we had with the transfers. But there is a really interesting thing, since I keep coming back to this because I'm really interested in this, because I think when your book is out, I'll be the first one outside the stores to buy that. And I really want to know is the fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjær, you mentioned that in the first press conference, even after a defeat or a win, so this gives us two conditions, a defeat and a win. So have you seen the man after a defeat, and how different is it from the man after a win?
There's not a lot of difference really. It's still a class act. Obviously, no one wants to lose, and you wouldn't want him to want to lose. Otherwise, what's the point of being manager of your football club? He's still very sort of polite. I mean, he's got a measure of class about him. And again, looking into his sort of upbringing, and his parents are very lovely people. Brought him up, say it this way, the right way. With manners, to respect others, to be inquisitive. His father was a very successful Greco-Roman wrestler, professional, professional, but in terms of winning titles and representing his country. And I think that also helped Solskjær, because it meant that Blair is too strong, but he sort of grew up in the household of a kind of quasi-famous, very successful athlete as his father. So sort of used to, not a big deal for him to sort of be in that kind of environment. And while he tried wrestling himself and didn't particularly like it, he was always around his dad. I think his dad, in terms of his sporting approach, his attitude, to sport and life, obviously both parents, but with regard to the sporting area, I think it came from his father. He's also got a sister, a younger sister. But to sort of go back to answering your question, I think it's just in him. I have to say, I'm not saying it won't happen and hasn't happened, but in my experience, I've never seen him be sort of sour or a bit bitter. You can lose and be unhappy. There's a way of losing, in which you're not happy, but you accept it's part of it and you want to use it to motivate your players. And that's basically all I've ever seen. I mean, as much as you can do in a sort of Manchester United press conference, before a game especially, but also after, he likes to laugh at a joke. He does. He knows who you are. He'll say hello. If he catches your eye, and that's just the way he is. He's not a cold fish at all. I think this is what helps him with players, because I think the truism to say it, but they're basically human beings, aren't they? And they respond to another nice human being who sort of has got an interest in them. And I think that's key. You can sort of make a case that with the way football and elite sport has gone, obviously by definition, if you're at Manchester United, you're going to be a half decent footballer, a very good footballer. So the extra, the man management, how you sort of get that extra percentage that's vital. And I think, he's very good at that. It's not to underestimate people. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, we may well see it next season, but so far I've always thought, he was a little bit out of order, a bit rude. Not all, the opposite.
Okay, so you've been in this job for a long time now, JB. You have seen Sir Alex Ferguson after a match. So is this man, Ole Gunnar Solskjær, different from the person he loves? He admires Sir Alex. He has said it multiple times that he wants to bring back those days. So is this man the same old man as Sir Alex?
Oh, no, human being.
Has he that thing about him?
I mean, I think he's got. Again, we're very, very early days, but Ferguson basically, because he was such a genius and a proven genius and won you know, I can't remember what the stat is. I think there was only 2 seasons from when he won the first FA Cup in 1990 when he never won a trophy. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. I think it was 2 seasons. Anyway, but he was, you know, Ferguson's a one-off and a completely different press conferences. You know, you were almost sort of the hairdryer with, you know, the famous hairdryer which players experience, journalists on a semi-regular basis. Well, I mean, it's a bit strong, but you know, most journalists who've been around covering him will have experienced a hairdryer at least once. But you know, he was allowed to do that. Also, a very sort of funny, intelligent man. And I think with regard to that, Solskjaer is an intelligent man. You know, he's got a twinkle in his eye. This is a good way to say it. Ferguson's got all the best ones, managers, like all the sort of most interesting, you know, people who do anything. He's got a bit of a twinkle, a bit of a glint in the eye, and I think Solskjaer has his own particular glint. You know, what's interesting about football is we can say all this and they start off next season losing the first 5, which I don't think will happen. But you know, and obviously the view of him will be altered. And that's fair enough because it's all about the results. But he understands that. And you know, when you qualified for Champions League by beating Leicester on the final game 2-0, obviously, I thought the most impressive thing he said was, "Yeah, we are actually this isn't the end. We're actually really not done that much. You know, we're Manchester United. This is just a little step towards where we want to be." And I thought even then, when he could have been forgiven for just having half a second of euphoria, or, you know, that's what I mean, and sort of, yeah, this is great. And obviously he was pleased, but it was more like, not so what, but okay, this is the bare minimum really we should be doing at this club. And I think that these sort of things are just little clues, little insights into, you know, how he is planning. And you know, imagine what a story it will be if the guy who won you the Champions League of 1999 wins you the next Premier League title. I mean, that's why I love sport, really. That's a lovely story, you know. And I think of all the managers since Ferguson went, easily he's got the best chance. He's put himself in the best position through his hard work and his abilities. I never thought Van Gaal really. Moyes obviously not. Van Gaal was a bit of an awkward choice. So was Mourinho, and I think we finally got it right with the right kind of manager. You know, the club.
Exactly. Now you mentioned about Moyes. I know you have a book. It's A Season in Red about
Yes.
David Moyes. Do you think you had your reservations when you first saw Ole Gunnar Solskjær, and how was your feeling after you first saw after the first season of David Moyes?
Well, I've got to say, when they appointed him, I thought that's a refreshing thing. They haven't gone for it, I don't know, Mourinho or Ancelotti, or you know, I thought fair play. You know, why not? He's well at Everton, all the rest of it. But actually, from his moment he kind of had the job, he didn't seem to be too in awe of it, too much like. There's one thing respecting, you know, the amazing football club Manchester United is. You're now in charge of it, and it was too much. Well, you know, there was this thing he did which I could not believe. He said that he said he felt a bit stupid sitting in Ferguson's old chair in the manager's office. And I thought, and I kind of know what you mean, but come on, if players are looking at this, it's not good management. You know, keep that for sort of your memoirs or your family when you go home privately. And that was the thing about Solskjaer. When he came in, I would almost say breezed into that first press conference at the Jimmy Murphy Centre at the training ground, you know, where they have the media room. It was almost like, obviously not owned the place, it just felt so natural. But then the more you thought about it, because he'd been there as a player and then also as a reserve and youth team manager, he coached them. His first job actually was coaching the attackers, so the Tevez, Rooney, Ronaldo kind of years 6, 7, basically after he retired. He got all that there. No wonder he felt comfortable. He spent so much of his working stroke sporting life there. That was a massive difference. Far better fit than Moyes or Van Gaal and Mourinho. It's just like, you know, it just isn't any comparison.
Exactly, and this is. I think that is a very valid thing. The valid point that he had been there as a player. He knows what it actually means to be a successor, and he knows exactly the ambiance that Manchester United carries, the weight that it carries. I think he was pretty fit for it. I think he was. That is the reason I think he was at home from the very first day. Now, to all the viewers who are watching this, if you guys are liking this, please drop a sub on our YouTube channel. We really want that. And now this question is for you from me, because see, I told you what I do and it would be a dream come true for me to even get to see you someday. And for you, from your point of view, what was your feeling when you first saw Sir Alex Ferguson?
I'm trying to remember the very first. So I think the very first time would be a match. I remember. So before I had this particular job, I was a general sports journalist writer for our sister paper, which is the Observer, which I still work for because it's integrated. Anyway, I went to do a match at Old Trafford, and I was living in London. So I wouldn't necessarily do games, and it was United v Blackburn. When was that? I can't remember that. I can't remember if United won it or lost it, but I just remember. Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I'm never really that overawed by famous people because this job sort of teaches you not to be. But with Ferguson, it's a different kettle of fish. I always say about Ferguson, I actually think a little bit underrated what he did. Of course, he's considered, our greatest manager, so he's not underrated that way. But actually, what he managed to pull off over a whole generation, sort of 20 odd years, maybe building 2 or 3 amazing football teams, which is so difficult in football. I mean, what he did at Aberdeen alone was a joke. He upset the Celtic Rangers domination, with Aberdeen, won the Premiership in Scotland, but then he beat Real Madrid in the European Cup final, which was just unbelievable. So, even before you get to what he did at United, he a bit of a special manager, really. Solskjaer only has to achieve, I don't know, 10th, 20th of what Ferguson. So if he just wins 1 or 2 titles, one title, that'd be success, wouldn't it? I don't think you're ever going to get another Ferguson. But he has learned under Ferguson. Let's wait and see.
Wow, that is I think you mentioned that for a journalist you have to be unfazed and unfazed about who you see. But every time I see a person who has achieved so much more in the sport,
yeah.
I get awestruck. I get starstruck very easily.
There's nothing wrong with. I admire many people with that, but also in this job you still live, but sometimes, so let's say, tough or searching questions. So you have to sort of just be respectful. But what you're saying, that also, the more you're around sort of people like Ferguson, the more you kind of get used to it. But that's quite natural. Everyone's different. Everyone's completely different about how they are, basically. It is. Ferguson is was slightly different just because he was Ferguson. There would be journalists much older than me who've covered him basically all of his time at United. He was still a little bit apprehensive. What's he going to do? Because he's Ferguson. And as I said earlier, he'd earned the right to be like that because of the unbelievable success.
What he is, yeah. Exactly. Now, if you were the manager of Manchester United, I'm giving you a name of maybe 3-4 players. Who would you sign? I'm not going to include Ronaldo in it because he has already played. Now Messi, and then there is Neymar, then there is Mbappe. So who would you sign at this point of time?
Just one of those. One of them, yeah?
Yeah, one of them, yeah. You have to pick one.
Mbappe, because what is he, 21? So,
he's 21.
Yeah, basically half a day. Of the other two, it would be Messi, just because he's never. But yeah, no, Mbappe, I think he is. I don't know, is he the world's best player now? I'm not so sure. I think Messi never seems not to be the world's best player. I mean, just as an aside, the year that Modric won it one year, didn't he? I mean,
last year, yeah.
Very good player, but for me, no way. I mean, I don't even think Messi was in the top 3. That's a bit odd. But yeah, Mbappe, he is basically. He's already won the World Cup and all the rest. He's still so young.
Yeah, exactly. Now, some of the viewers have sent in their questions. I'd like to ask a couple of them. So one of them is, while writing this is a very interesting question. While writing Solskjaer's biography, how much does his life symbolize with the line, mountains are there to be climbed? This is a very good question.
Good question. No, I think the way in which he moved to United, got his move to United. He was a bit of a late developer as a sort of teenage player. He was always very good, but at the same time, I think there was a couple of years or seasons where he didn't grow, and so he had to overcome that. He had this unbelievable self-belief. There's a mountain. Going to United that summer, was it summer of '96? Was it? Yes, just after the Euros. I think he was the player for which he was the least heralded. He was signed. There's a sort of famous photo of him, Van der Hau, Cruyff, Jordi Cruyff. I won't go through them all, but anyway, the point is, he was told that you probably be 6 months before you get near the first team playing the reserve. He got a couple of injuries, comes on his debut and scores against Blackburn. Every time you look at moments where he has to, the reason he got a move to United was because Jim Ryan, the assistant, went to watch Ronny Johnsen in a Norway international against Azerbaijan. Solskjaer scored 2 goals. One of them was a ridiculous volley, and wait a minute, Jim Ryan's gone back to Ferguson. What about this strike? So every time he knows how to create and then take opportunities for himself. So that's quite a good way of describing it. I mean, who would have thought? Let's think of some of the nadir. You lose 4-0 at Everton last season. Who would have thought he was going to survive then in the job? And you lose. There's a week early December just gone. You're playing Spurs and Manchester City. I can't remember what the result was. You just drawn with Burnley very badly, I think, or maybe anyway. Or West Ham maybe, and almost like he has to beat Spurs and City to keep his job. And you're thinking, I remember going to that game, the first one's Spurs game. He plays Mason Greenwood, centre forward. I don't know if you remember this game. He's never played anything for Manchester United. The lad's 18. I'm thinking, is he really going to get even a draw here? But he's thinking, goes to City, Manchester City, on the Saturday and beats them. So you've got to prove yourself constantly in anything that matters in life, and he seems to be able to do that. So, if you say the next mountain is winning the Premier League, and I would completely understand this, many people might say, well, there is not a chance for this United team next season, and I'm not saying it will happen, but you never know. And he has a habit, giving you a few examples there, of kind of proving people wrong, because I think he's underestimated now. I think he is. Exactly.
Yeah, he is underestimated to a lot of extent. Now coming to this, since you said, but this question eerily falls in line with what you said right now. There's another question that has come in. Do you feel the United legends, Scholesy, Giggs, Neville, they have been a bit too critical about the previous managers, and do you think it has a bit to play the fact that Ole has actually played with them, so they are not as critical as they were?
I think that's a very valid question. I think there's something in that. I mean, I think, again, human nature. Solskjaer, by all accounts, is a very popular member of that team. So, people you mentioned there are kind of friends of his. I could guarantee you, if the Moyes team, had played, finished third, for example, playing a kind of Manchester United style, they all would have praised him. So the same for Van Gaal and Mourinho. I think they all want the club to do well, because like yourself and many of the viewers, or all the viewers of this, they're all fans of United. You're not a real fan of a club if you want your manager to fail. I don't think anyway. What's the point otherwise in supporting the club? So there is an element of them being friends. There has been some criticism of them from former players. It happened. So I don't know. If they were playing a sort of anti-United football, but it's still Solskjaer, I think you would then hear about it. I think he's been given a little bit more time, but part of that is I think those sort of former players you mentioned, and others who have a fondness for the club, are kind of a little bit sick of what had happened before, since Ferguson. I mean, it's not, that book you mentioned that I wrote before Season the Red, it was about Moyes, but it was also about Van Gaal. It was kind of about how difficult it is to follow Ferguson and Crumbs. the club sort of not fallen apart since he left, but kind of flatlined and was a bit of a mess. And he's sorted all that out. Put it this way, if he was to resign tomorrow, as long as he made the right appointment of the next manager, he'd be coming into a nice job. When he took it over, when Van Gaal took it over from Moyes, even when Moyes took it over from Ferguson, it wasn't a good job. I know you've just been champions there, but the defence was creaking and needed sorting out. You know, the midfield, the kind of the same, blah blah blah. He's turned all that around. You know, he's done it all while still finishing third. That's a good achievement. He should, you know, privately he has to be proud of that.
Exactly. And so who do you think, like in this Ole Gunnar Solskjær team, which player actually resembles that Ole Gunnar Solskjær mentality? Which player is it?
I suppose Fernandes is
Fernandes, yeah.
Really kind of, if you want a sort of an emblem of why, of what Solskjaer's all about, it's the fact he managed to get to go there as well. You know, that was interesting about Fernandes. Why was no other massive club in for him? And at the time, that was like considered, well, does that mean he can't play? You know, but he obviously can. So Fernandes, but I tell you the player who I think is the biggest symbol of where United might go. It's Mason Greenwood for me, because
exactly.
Even before he scored against Astana in September, the home game, his first ever goal, he was saying he's the best finisher at the club. Solskjaer was. Yeah, obviously he knows about scoring goals, and so that was above Martial. What a player he is, above Rashford, very good player, and he's come on improving it, Greenwood. And you know, with the COVID and lockdown, which we were discussing and or mentioning, referencing, obviously there's no fans in there, so you really hear everything when you go and report. And I have to say, when Greenwood, a couple of goals, I don't know, there was one game he scored twice, was it against Bournemouth, maybe? But just
exactly, one with the left, one with the right.
The right foot one, he's supposedly more left-footed, but trust me, he's both feet. The right-footed one, the sound in the stadium when he struck
I was just going to say that the sound the ball made, it was, you can hear the ball. Exactly, it was amazing.
I've covered sort of world heavyweight boxing, and it's kind of similar to that. In that you just cannot believe the sound that these guys hit each other. It sounds obvious, when I say it, but until you're there, it's got its own thing going on. And that was what.
I'll help you out with that. When the ball used to hit Sachin Tendulkar's middle of the bat or Alistair Cook's defense, Rahul Dravid's defense, that is the sound we're talking about. It's amazing. That crack, that sounds so satisfying. It's amazing. And
it's the one who really excites me going forward.
Yeah. So I think, Jamie, that is all I cannot process the kind of things I heard today, I have to say. And it's a pleasure for me to have you and the viewers. The kind of feedback I'm receiving on my mobile phone right now is amazing. They're all enjoying it a lot. I hope you had a great time.
An amazing time. You've both been very kind to you. So thank you. If you want me to come back on, I'm happy.
Don't worry, I'm gonna hit you up. And do you have a small? Yeah, thank you so much. And do you have a small message for the fans in Kolkata? Since you've been to the city, and is there a chance of you coming back? Any message for us?
Well, I would definitely love to come back. It is a heck of a city. I was there, that IPL time. A beautiful, amazing, vibrant city, just like India. I'm lucky enough to be not most places, but a lot of places in India. 2 or 3 or 4 times I've been there. So yeah, hopefully I'll be there soon. But just keep on enjoying the amazing country, the football, but also obviously stay safe because it's a difficult time at the moment.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jamie. You have a great weekend. And before you have your book published, before you have it out in the market, I would love to have you again. And let's see what we can do about that.
Please, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good. See you.